Okay, quick question. When was the last time you watched an awards show and actually gasped? Not because something was outrageous or bizarre, but because something was so genuinely, breathtakingly beautiful that you had to put your phone down for a second. I mean, really stop. Because I remember those moments. And honestly, thinking about them now makes me a little sad. Because something happened to the red carpet, something most people can feel but nobody can quite explain. And I want to talk about it today. There was a time, not that long ago, when the red carpet felt like stepping into another world entirely. Grace Kelly floated into the 1955 Oscars in 32 yards of mint green satin.
Performance by an actress, Grace Kelly for the country girl.
And looked so impossibly regal that people genuinely questioned whether she was real. Audrey Hepburn showed up in Givenchy, and it wasn't just a dress, it was a feeling. Princess Diana walked into a room, and the whole world held its breath. Now, scroll through your phone the morning after any major awards show today, and the contrast is almost jarring. What you find is a dizzying parade of looks that have drifted remarkably far from anything most of us would recognize as clothing. There is a collective exhaustion setting in, a quiet, low-grade sense of cultural whiplash that many of us feel every single award season, but struggle to put into words. Here's the thing though, and this is what I find genuinely fascinating about all of this. None of it is an accident, not the old glamour, and not the chaos that replaced it. Every single thing you've ever seen on a red carpet, from Grace Kelly's 1955 satin gown to Kylie Jenner's faux lion's head, is a calculated business decision made in a boardroom by very smart, very strategic people who understand exactly what they're doing and exactly why. Today we are going behind the curtain. We are going to trace, step by step, exactly how we went from one of the most refined visual cultures in human history to whatever fever dream we are currently living through. We'll uncover the PR mechanics, the financial pressures, and the exact moment the algorithm showed up and changed everything forever. But before we get to where we are, we have to go back. We have to look at what we lost and understand why it was so extraordinary in the first place. Can you imagine being a publicist in 1955? Your entire job was elegantly simple. Make your client look like royalty, say absolutely nothing, and let the gown do every single word of the talking. And they were devastatingly good at it. Here's something most people completely miss about Grace Kelly's famous Oscar gown. That mint green satin wasn't chosen because it was pretty, though it was. It was chosen because it was a strategy, a deeply calculated one. Grace Kelly was weeks away from announcing her engagement to Prince Rainier III of Monaco. Her PR team and studio costumer Edith Head had one urgent mission. The world still saw her as a working actress. They needed the world to start seeing her as someone destined for royalty, and they needed that shift to happen fast before the announcement dropped. So they put her in a gown that whispered it without saying a word. It worked so completely that the dress itself became a historical artifact, not because it shocked anyone, because it elevated everyone who laid eyes on it. That is not fashion. That is storytelling through fabric. Audrey Hepburn understood this on the same level. Her entire career-long relationship with designer Hubert de Givenchy was essentially the first modern brand ambassador deal in history, before that term even existed. She wore his designs. He became the permanent definition of timeless elegance, and they both built something that lasted for decades. Every single time she appeared in his work on a red carpet, it was communicating something deliberate, something specific about who she was and exactly where her career was headed. It wasn't fashion for fashion's sake. It was a long-term narrative investment that paid dividends for both of them for 30 years. The power of the classic red carpet wasn't what you showed. It was what you withheld. The restraint was the authority. As the decades moved forward, publicists kept refining these same tactics with extraordinary precision. Elizabeth Taylor's appearances through the 1960s and 1970s were used by her management to showcase her jewelry partnerships with Bulgari, literally framing her as a diamond-tier brand in her own right. Whitney Houston's red carpet looks through the 1980s and 1990s projected such regal, structured elegance that they reinforced her status as pop royalty rather than a trend-chasing pop star. Carolyn Bessette Kennedy pioneered a new form of 1990s minimalist prestige. Her hyper-restrained, unembellished designs projected an elite exclusivity that genuine wealth alone simply couldn't manufacture. But the single moment that represents the absolute peak of this golden era, and the one that still gives me chills, belongs to Princess Diana. June 29, 1994. The context here is everything. That evening, Prince Charles went on national television and admitted to the entire country that his marriage had broken down in a massive public scandal. 13 million people watched. Diana knew the interview was coming. She had originally planned to attend a charity event at London's Serpentine Gallery that same night wearing a Valentino gown, until Valentino's own PR office accidentally leaked her look to the press hours before she arrived. She changed her mind entirely. She went to her closet and pulled out a black, off-the-shoulder silk cocktail dress by a designer named Christina Stambolian that had been sitting there, unworn, for 3 years. She had always thought it was too daring. That night, she decided that daring was precisely what the moment required. Paired with a sapphire choker, scarlet lipstick, and the composed expression of someone with absolutely nothing left to lose, Diana arrived at the Serpentine Gallery and, in roughly 30 seconds of walking from her car to the front door, completely hijacked the global news cycle. The Sun's headline the following morning was 3 words: "Revenge is chic." Prince Charles had his confession. Diana had the photograph. And in the media economy of any era, then, now, always, the photograph wins. No shock value, no desperation. Just a woman, a dress, and a story that needed zero explanation. The late 1990s kept this standard alive, beautifully, right to the final chapter. Nicole Kidman's Chartreuse Dior gown at the 1997 Oscars, designed by the young John Galliano in his debut Dior season, officially transitioned her from being a famous actor's wife into a standalone fashion force overnight. Sharon Stone paired a Gap shirt with a Vera Wang skirt at the 1998 Oscars and somehow made the most talked about look of the evening out of a $22 top. Gwyneth Paltrow's pale pink Ralph Lauren at the 1999 Oscars permanently anchored her public brand as America's sweetheart with a single photograph. And Julia Roberts chose vintage Valentino for the 2001 Oscars, when she could have worn anything from anyone for free, specifically to signal unshakable status through restraint, history, and zero effort. That choice launched the modern trend of archival prestige dressing that the industry still references today. These women weren't chasing attention, they were managing it, and there is a profound difference between the two. But here's where the story takes a dark turn. Because publicists started noticing something deeply inconvenient. Elegance doesn't spark internet outrage, and outrage, as it turned out, was about to become the only currency that mattered. Okay, I need you to sit with this idea for a second because it genuinely changes how you look at every celebrity fashion moment that ever confused you. Being beloved for one role, truly, deeply beloved, can quietly, invisibly destroy a career. Think about what that actually means. You spend a decade playing the same character. Every casting director in Hollywood sees you as that person. The public adores you as that person. Your own agent gets calls for that person. And no matter how extraordinary your actual range is, that association becomes a ceiling, invisible but absolutely real, that no amount of talent can break through on its own. The red carpet became the solution, the fastest, most public way in the world to announce, "I am not who you think I am anymore." This is what the industry quietly calls an Ingenue Rebrand. The systematic dismantling of an outdated public persona, replaced by a mature leading star image capable of anchoring global franchises. And it is executed almost entirely through fashion, because fashion is the fastest language available to anyone who needs to change the conversation without ever calling a press conference. The Game of Thrones cast is, to me, the most fascinating and vivid example of this in recent memory. For nearly a decade, these actors were buried, visually completely buried, under heavy fur cloaks, medieval armor, dirt-smudged costumes, and the entire grimy aesthetic vocabulary of a fantasy world. Their faces were known everywhere, but they were known as characters, not as contemporary leading stars. As the series approached its final season in 2019, every breakout actor faced the exact same urgent PR challenge. The industry needed to understand that they were not their characters, that their range extended well beyond Westeros, and that they were available and ready for something entirely different. What followed was one of the most coordinated image rebranding campaigns in modern television history, executed entirely on red carpets. Emilia Clarke, Daenerys Targaryen herself, began appearing in sleek, sharp, modern designer tailoring that had nothing to do with dragons or destiny. Sophie Turner signed a lucrative ambassador deal with Louis Vuitton, and almost overnight transformed her public image into something architectural, contemporary, and completely current. Maisie Williams went deliberately avant-garde. Bold silhouettes, dramatic hair shifts, shattering any remaining trace of the girl from Winterfell. And Gwendolyn Christie, who the entire watching world knew exclusively in full-plate armor, walked premiere carpets in ethereal Iris Van Herpen couture that had people genuinely doing a double take at the name card. Every look was a coordinated instruction to the industry. I am not my character. I am something far more versatile. Cast me differently. This playbook is decades old. Anne Hathaway ran it brilliantly in the mid-2000s. After The Princess Diaries turned her into one of the most recognizable faces on the planet, her team identified the trap immediately. The public saw her as sweet, young, and permanently safe. So they aligned her with Prada and Valentino, dressed her in silhouettes that were challenging and sophisticated and grown up, and pivoted her toward a mature leading star image so effectively that she walked away with an Academy Award. Reese Witherspoon pulled a near-identical move after Legally Blonde, quietly setting the bubblegum pink aside, stepping into restrained and serious tailoring from Celine and Michael Kors, and timing the shift so precisely that by her Oscar win for Walk the Line, the transformation felt complete and inevitable. And then there is Zendaya, who deserves her own documentary, honestly, because what she and her stylist, or image architect, as Law Roach trademarked the title, because even that was a PR move, built together is the most sophisticated and sustained execution of the Ingenue Rebrand strategy in modern entertainment history. Transitioning from a Disney Channel star to a global cinematic force required a years-long PR architecture of extraordinary patience and precision. Roach's philosophy, as he has described it publicly, is less about dressing a celebrity and more about using fashion to author the story the world is being invited to believe about that person. Every garment was a chapter in a very deliberate book. For the Dune Part 2 premiere in 2024, they pulled a vintage 1995 Thierry Mugler robotic suit from his legendary Fall-Winter Cirque d'Hiver collection, a 30-year-old archival piece that required the original craftsman who built it to be present at the fitting. That single look trended globally for days. It dominated every platform simultaneously. It ensured the film's premiere was completely inescapable. This was not styling. It was a coordinated media event, wearing the disguise of an outfit, and it worked with extraordinary, measurable precision. But here's where the whole system gets complicated, because standing out worked beautifully, right up until everyone in Hollywood was trying to stand out at exactly the same time. And then the algorithm arrived, looked at all of it, and decided it only cared about one thing. I want you to think about the last red carpet moment that genuinely stopped your scroll. Was it something beautiful, or was it something that made you say, what on earth am I looking at? Because that reaction, that confused, slightly offended, completely can't look away feeling, is now worth millions of dollars. Literally, they measure it, they publish the numbers. And once the industry saw the numbers, everything changed. The metric is called Media Impact Value, MIV. It's a real-time dollar figure that data firms like Launchmetrics assign to the buzz a single celebrity look generates online, and the numbers that started coming out were genuinely staggering. Zendaya's 2 looks at the 2024 Met Gala generated a combined $32.7 million in MIV in a single evening. The entire 2025 Met Gala produced over $1 billion in MIV within its first 48 hours, a 19% increase over the prior year. Once those figures became visible and verifiable to every publicist and fashion house on earth, the creative calculus of red carpet fashion shifted permanently. Because here's the brutal discovery that changed everything. A perfectly beautiful, perfectly tailored, perfectly elegant gown generates a fraction of the buzz that something genuinely controversial produces. Publicists ran the numbers. The numbers were unambiguous. If an outfit doesn't trend, the 6-figure styling investment is considered a failure, regardless of how stunning it might be. Timeless elegance had been functionally replaced by trending hashtags, and everyone in the industry felt that pressure every single season. So now you understand Kylie Jenner. At the 2023 Schiaparelli Haute Couture show, that velvet gown with the enormous, hyper-realistic faux lion's head attached to the shoulder, that look was designed from its very first sketch to generate controversy, to stop the scroll, to force people to have opinions so strong and so immediate that they had to post them publicly. It dominated Paris Fashion Week for 2 straight days and generated massive MIV for both Jenner and the house. That was not an attempt at beauty. That was a media campaign dressed in velvet. The 2022 Coperni spray-on dress, where a garment was literally constructed onto Bella Hadid's silhouette live on the runway, followed exactly the same logic. That moment was engineered for TikTok before the dress existed as a design concept. It was a technology stunt wrapped in the language of fashion. Beautiful in a conceptual sense? Sure. Timeless? That was never remotely the point. In this new world, stylists stopped being stylists and became media strategists with fabric budgets. Every wardrobe choice is now explicitly understood as a corporate asset with a measurable, reportable return on investment. Even method dressing, the phenomenon that Zendaya and Law Roach developed with genuine artistry, got rapidly industrialized by film studios. During the 2023 and 2024 Barbie press tours, Margot Robbie and her team executed a relentless, IP-driven PR strategy, using archival fashion to recreate specific vintage Barbie dolls, look by look, across every single public appearance. Every outfit fed directly into the film's marketing machinery, driving box office numbers and social media saturation simultaneously. At that point, wardrobe had become completely indistinguishable from advertising, because in the most precise financial sense, it was advertising. Music red carpets became the most aggressive battleground of all. At the 2026 Grammy Awards, Lady Gaga deployed dark gothic couture that instantly hijacked trending topics across every platform. Bad Bunny wore a custom Schiaparelli corseted velvet tuxedo that pushed the absolute outer limits of traditional menswear and generated MIV numbers that rivaled his historic musical nominations for the evening. Rising star Chappelle Rowan used a boldly constructed Mugler ensemble to execute a breakout algorithm strategy in a market completely saturated. With competition for attention, it worked instantly. Her visual identity was cemented with audiences who might otherwise have scrolled right past. The escalation is palpable. Every season pushes further into territory that felt unimaginable the season before. When everyone is shouting at maximum volume at exactly the same time, nobody can actually be heard. We've hit the ceiling. So what happens when the shock value finally wears off? Here's something I find genuinely hopeful and honestly a little poetic. The loudest possible response to a world that refuses to stop shouting is silence. The complete saturation of shock value marketing has produced something its architects did not anticipate: profound, bone-deep audience fatigue. When every celebrity is fighting desperately for a viral moment, when every red carpet becomes an arms race of escalating extremity, the most radical strategy a star can possibly deploy is, suddenly, absolute restraint. And right now, quietly but unmistakably, some of the most powerful women in entertainment are doing exactly that, and it is working. For stars who already possess diamond-tier brand equity, there is genuinely no need to play the algorithm's desperate game. True star power commands a room without requiring a prop. The most sophisticated publicists working today understand this distinction with complete clarity. Cate Blanchett at the 2024 Venice Film Festival is the perfect textbook illustration. Rather than shock value marketing, she leaned entirely into sustainable prestige. She re-wore archival Armani Privé gowns, updated them with different jewelry, recycled a Louis Vuitton necklace from a prior Cannes appearance, rewore a custom Armani Privé catsuit that had first appeared at the 2022 SAG Awards, styling it this time with cascading pearl strands down the back. And here is what nobody predicted. The internet went absolutely wild for it, not despite the re-wearing, because of it. Because in a landscape drowning in spectacle, a woman who doesn't need a new dress to be the most fascinating person in the room has become, paradoxically, the most fascinating person in the room. Angelina Jolie at that same Venice Festival wore a draped chiffon gown by Australian designer Tamara Ralph for the Maria premiere, a look that directly, deliberately invoked 1950s Hollywood royalty. Jolie's team understands that her public narrative is built on untouchable classic glamour and global humanitarian authority. To deviate into internet stunt dressing would serve only to dilute that authority. The restraint itself is the power. At the 2026 Golden Globes, an evening that felt, to many industry observers, like a referendum on the entire shock value era, the quiet luxury movement arrived unmistakably on the main stage. Amal Clooney, whose entire public narrative is inextricably tied to high intellect and global human rights law, arrived in vintage structured Versace. By choosing archival fashion over aggressive modern design, her team executed a brilliant quiet luxury maneuver. Every piece of media coverage focused on her professional prestige rather than a manufactured fashion controversy. Emma Stone showcased restrained, classic Louis Vuitton tailoring, her ambassador contract demanding visibility, her PR strategy demanding a mature image that rises completely above the digital noise. Selena Gomez used the 2026 awards circuit to project structured, joyful elegance, intentionally distancing herself from the algorithm-bait chaos of the pop star sphere to anchor her identity firmly and publicly as a serious actress and producer. Helen Mirren, who I am genuinely convinced has figured out something that the rest of Hollywood is still trying to learn. She just shows up. In regal, Elie Saab Couture at the 2024 Cannes Film Festival, in custom Dolce & Gabbana at the Golden Globes, in silhouettes that carry absolute authority and zero desperation. No gimmick required when the presence is that complete, and the room notices every single time. What all of these women collectively understand, what the shock value era forgot somewhere along the way, is that true star power doesn't need a prop. The most powerful image architects working today are building legacies, not trending moments. And a mature, discerning audience feels the difference between the two, even when they can't find the words to explain why. The quiet luxury movement is not just another trend cycling through. It is a correction. The pendulum finally swinging back towards something that was always there. The red carpet has always been a mirror. It reflects exactly what the industry values most in any given moment, and what we, as an audience, are willing to reward with our attention and our time. What I've come to understand after looking at all of this together is that nothing on that carpet was ever careless. Not Grace Kelly in 1955, not the Stambolian dress in 1994, not the lion's head in 2023, not Kate Blanchett quietly re-wearing a 3-year-old catsuit and somehow winning the entire internet with it. Every single garment has always been a sentence in a very long, very deliberate story about money, power, identity, and survival in one of the most competitive industries on earth. The algorithm isn't going anywhere. The pressure to go viral will persist. But the stars who are playing the long game, the ones building something that will genuinely matter in 20 years and not just 20 minutes, they are the ones choosing elegance, choosing restraint, choosing to trust that the work and the image will speak for itself, because trends will always come and go. But true elegance doesn't need to shout to be heard. Which era of red carpet fashion do you think was the absolute peak? I genuinely want to know. Tell me down below.